Welcome to the Pink Dress Effect podcast with Shannon and Kim. Today we're here to talk about sacred and real, faith, feelings, and figuring it out. So Kim, you want to introduce our guest?
Yes, I do. So
Awesome.
We have our millennial guest. We have Tristan Hunter. Great to have you here. Sydney Meeks.
Hi.
We're so excited to have you here because we just wanted to, there's so much conversation about young people and being involved in church. And I thought it'd be great to have some young people come on and talk about what it's like now to navigate the kind of secular world and also being really active and involved in church and what that looks like. So let's start out with attendance, like the idea that you have to go to church every Sunday, Bible study, all the things. What are your thoughts on how often you go to church?
Maybe it's just ingrained in me. But like as a kid, as you know, both of my grandmothers were very prominent in church and like had major roles. To me, major roles. And so I would always go to church with my grandma and my granny. And so they kind of instilled in me to go all the time. So
That's
I feel
awesome.
weird not going.
But was it ever placed on you like for instance with me, it was like if you don't go to church in Sunday school, forget your Sunday. You're in. You can't go. It was almost, I don't want to say punishment, but that's what it feels like.
It wasn't like it was punished. It was more like this is my Sunday routine.
Okay.
To go to Sunday school, to go to church, and
Yeah.
then you do whatever afterwards.
Okay.
Right? And so because that was instilled in me in childhood, and like I would go with my granny to church when my parents weren't going to church.
Oh, wow.
Like she would come pick me up.
And you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. No, but that's. I was too worried about getting in trouble.
I mean, as a kid, like, of course, I was a kid, so
Yeah.
like,
Right.
Kids fluctuate in their
Right.
emotions
Yeah.
and feelings at the time. So I may not have always wanted to go,
Right.
but in the heart of hearts, yeah, I did want to go.
Yeah, but that kind of shows you saw it as almost like a bonding opportunity with your grandmother, part of what you did, and you saw it sometimes as like a punishment or something you were required to do.
Yeah, I couldn't hang out with my girlfriends if I didn't go to church.
Yeah, and I think that's a valid concept for people that some people might feel that way. What do you think, Tristan?
Yeah, so similar to Sydney, I think my experience was like a generational like mandate that you just went to church on Sundays, right? So it's like my aunts and uncles, my mom, they all went to church on Sundays and their moms went to church on Sundays. So they were just always used to it. So Sundays, when I think about my childhood, Sundays were days that we went to church. We were missionary Baptists. So we were in church from, 8 o'clock in the morning for Sunday school to like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Oh, wow.
So when I say like traditional church growing up is what a lot of people think about when they think about missionary Baptists. Right. And we went almost every Sunday. Like it was rare for us not to go when something like major would have had to happen for us not to be there. Like fast forwarding down to my adult life though, I think it's moved from that idea of like just being compliant and going for the sake of tradition to like going because you actually want to go, you want to be a part of the community, you want to learn what things are happening. So when we talk about attendance, I think it depends on the person. It also depends on like their background, but I think more importantly, it depends on like how they see their role in the church or like the position they play in the church. So it's like, we could say, oh, well, you have to be a part of the community in the church because that's what the book of Acts calls us to do, is to be a part or to be connected. But I think the other end of that is a lot of people are like, well, I don't have to go every Sunday to be connected. I just need to be connected. And I think in today's society, I know we'll probably talk about it later, but in today's society, it's easier to like log in from Zoom or to log in on the Facebook platform and still like be connected just in a different format. So I think attendance depends on the person and also like their background. But more importantly, I think it's definitely like a personal decision.
Right. And as an adult, like Tristan, I want to be there, so that's the difference.
Yeah.
I may not always be there because of work. So like I travel now with work, and so sometimes my Sundays I'm working. So I can't be in the room, and so I just find time, or like hopefully within my schedule I can turn in on online and watch it with everyone else, or I have to watch it later.
And I can say, I've moved a lot, been to a lot of different churches. I've been to all denominations of churches throughout my life. I have never been a big person on attendance. I just never have. But when I was growing up young, like really young with my mom and stuff, it was still a part of our culture to go to church. So I very much believe in the institution of church and believe in all of that, but I don't weigh so much on attendance. I will watch online, but it's interesting to see the kind of different perspectives on that.
I've been to your mom's church before as a kid. I remember.
They are very old school, very old school traditional church.
Yeah, because you said you were going to invite me to something recently. You said I would have probably lost my mind.
We did look. So this is kind of veers off topic a little bit, but I had been invited to a Women's Day program, and it's Disciple of Church and God in Christ is the denomination, but there was a guest there that, the different things in church, a very almost like a Pentecostal type of mindset. And I said, no, Shannon. My mom's like, invite Shannon to church. And I'm like, well, Shannon was busy anyway. She couldn't come. But after that, I was like, Shannon probably would have been like, what's going on in here? Like what is going on in here?
Yeah.
Because it was typical, stereotypical in terms of, people kind of running around the church.
Speaking in tongues.
Yeah, all the things that I just didn't think you were familiar with, Shannon.
I wasn't familiar, but I am a very open-minded person.
Yes, you are.
And
you would have sat there.
I would have just been like, oh my gosh, no. We would have talked in the car probably.
Yeah. She might have pulled you out to that aisle to pray for you, and
I would have taken every prayer.
You would have. You would have.
Because I don't know that I'd be running around the church though.
Well, I haven't ran around the church either. And I say this lightly because I know that people are touched by the Spirit of God.
Yes.
And that is the way that they demonstrate their faith, their worship. It's just not mine.
It's just not
yours. And that's another
and that's
thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's okay. But that is something that you sometimes feel guilt about is how you worship. And I'm a conservative person. So I'm not the one. I am a conservative person. There are times, at any time, and maybe this is just the devil in me, I don't know. But anytime a pastor says what you have to do and how you have to worship and how you have to raise your hands or have to clap, there's something in me that says, no, I don't have to do it.
Yeah.
And I won't do it, and I just go by what I feel. Like my relationship with God is personal. Yeah. And I don't feel like I should be told how I have to worship. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so my...
You want to go first?
So, I was finding it.
I'm going to let you find it.
I have a really big problem with putting, like, your own personal preferences on someone else's spiritual relationship with God.
Yes.
And I know the Bible says, praises shall continually be in your mouth and dance like David danced, which if you actually read that part of the scriptures, David danced till his clothes until he was naked. So I don't know if you would dance like David.
Did you imagine your mom?
No. But the Bible also talks about, and you talk about, shouting and running around the church and speaking in tongues. Like those are things that the Spirit calls and lays on your heart.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And so it's not this thing where like you hear a beat and you're just supposed to get up and like perform.
Right.
Like this is the Spirit telling you to do this.
Yes.
Like you actually shouldn't be having any control over your body.
Yes.
And so I feel like you let people worship how they worship.
Yes.
Agree.
I don't know what it's like to, be in those churches where you just kind of are quiet and everything's hushed. Praise
it's
God.
quiet and reverent.
Yes, and reverent. I don't know what that's like.
Yeah.
But I also don't have that personality.
Right.
Like I come from a loud, boisterous family. My mother is loud.
Yeah.
I am loud.
I hear your mom across the church sometimes.
I mean, you can hear her on E-City online. So I don't know what that's like, but I don't shame people in how they worship.
Yes.
I feel like that is wrong.
Yeah, and I know
And so many
I've been
people
in that
do
situation.
though, right? You find people that shame people all the time.
Yeah.
for, I don't know,
And I think
being raised one way and then going to another church that really you feel fed or whatever,
Yes.
right? You know?
You should feel fed.
Right.
And sometimes you have to leave a church to go to somewhere else where you do feel fed.
Yeah. I think people forget that like the whole idea of like my relationship with God and all of these things is it's an intellectual decision, right? But it's also a deeply like emotionally rooted decision too. So like when it comes down to even transitioning to other churches or feeling prompted to like shout when the pastor says shout, it's like none of those things, like you can like prime the pump and like get people to start like thinking about those things. But at the end of the day, if you want it to be authentic, it's like it still has to be like driven by the person. So I can scream from the pulpit to, you know, clap your hands or to do these things, or I can call out prompts to make you think about, you know, all the things that God has done. But because it's such an intellectually and personal, emotional thing, until you like make that connection on your own, I can't do that. And it's like, I think it's also safe to say that thing that varies by Sunday. So it's like one Sunday I might feel like deeply emotional and deeply like connected to God on like a completely different level. So when the pastor says, you know, lift up your hands and worship, I might holler out, right? But then it's completely possible that the next Sunday I'm in a completely different headspace. But like my relationship with God doesn't change because of those things. It's like it's the same Tristan each Sunday, the same amount of gratefulness and all those things. It's just a different level of intellect or a different level of emotions in that moment.
And just a season
and
of space where you're at.
And you don't have to prove that you're a good Christian by demonstrating that, you know, through, you know, your clapping or all of those. If you're trying to prove it, then it is performative and it's not authentic.
Yeah.
So,
I think some religions, it's based on your good works that you think you're going to get like into heaven, or you're going to, I'm a good person. So, but it's deeper than that, I think, you know?
Yeah, 100%.
So what are your thoughts on dating, being young people, single, dating, and being in the church?
What did it say? Our purity culture versus unrealistic teaching.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tackle the first part, and then we'll go ahead. And then let's circle back around to the purity versus the other part. I wholeheartedly believe that like young people and people in the church in general, regardless of like which demographic or which, you know, age group they're in, they should be allowed to date. Because how else are you going to find the love of your life if you don't, right? I think
do they think it's right or wrong? Like in general?
I think in general it should be right, because I'm like, how are we producing the next generation? How are we, you know,
right.
building up if we aren't dating? If everybody
but do they
in the church,
say that we shouldn't be? I'm just saying.
So. I think it's the more so around like how they go around dating.
How?
Right. So like group dates or things like that, or
I think the things that are happening. Can I beeline this for 1 second?
Kim, I think that age. I mean, that was way before.
It's not a group date. That's not the thing.
No, your face.
So I made that face because
that was cute.
I'm gonna let you finish your point.
Yes, I'm sorry. We're just
I made that face because I grew up in church, but I also have the parents that I have.
Yes.
So like, I view dating very different. That honestly, some people that might tune in might not agree with how I date, like how I view dating.
Yes.
And it has to do with like a full balance. So how I kind of explain myself and my spirituality as a person, like I believe that Jesus is my Lord and Savior, but I also lived a full life.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. Group dates is not happening.
that's not happening.
And if they're telling you it is, they're lying to you.
I haven't witnessed one yet, so maybe we're just in the wrong space. I haven't witnessed it, so maybe we're in the wrong space.
Group dates are not happening. I personally, there are certain aspects of me that are more conservative than progressive, or if that's the word that you want to use, just because of like how a man should treat you and like how you should be courted. I'm very conservative in that, like you are a man, like open my door.
Yes.
There's some things progressivism shouldn't take away anyway.
Right, no. Right. You should be paying for the meal 50-50. What is that? Yeah, no.
Okay.
No. But no, I'm not going on a group date. I'm not going. You
can speak for both of us.
We're not.
Like well, I guess it depends on how conservative your church is. So I mean, I have heard of churches where when young people, it's more accepted to be in a group setting versus going on solo dates where then intimacy might happen. And you know,
I've been at our church since 2011, and we grew up in youth ministry together. even then,
Yeah.
won't nobody going on group dates.
No. There were individual dates.
Let's talk about.
Yeah.
There might have been moments where like we go out as friends,
Yeah.
and then you end up seeing like two people veer off,
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, two
and like
people who
have
happen
their
to be
own
dating.
time, like
Yeah.
that happen
Would
to be
that
dating.
be known or would that be kind of secretive?
Oh, it would be known.
Yeah.
Okay.
It would be known. They might think it was secretive,
Yeah.
but me and Tristan would be like,
We were too close knit for it not to be like, for
see
us to
that
not
over there?
notice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I don't think people have a negative outlook on dating in the church. I think it's like you said, the like issues around like intimacy and like monogamy and all of those
Right.
things. Those are the bigger like issues and themes that come up when they talk about dating, I think, or at least in conversations I've been a part of.
Yeah.
So what are your views on that then? So what about when it comes time to have, those deeper conversations about, not having sex before marriage and all of these things and fornication, and what about that?
You pitched the first question to me, so I'm going to say this.
So I am not a virgin. Have not been for a very long time. No, just kidding. I mean, I'm only 29. So.
Yes. Yes.
But I'm not a virgin. And I was not raised in a household where, abstinence was pushed. Now, I'm not saying my parents were like, go be wild.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
But they were very realistic about it. And I actually appreciated that because
Yeah.
I think the problem that I see in the church is that people that, we are friends with or people that are in the church that we've grown up with, they have a hard relationship with sex. They don't know what it is in like its full context.
Right.
Right. Like
Right.
what that looks like.
Yes.
And they've been sheltered to think, oh, this is like only happening a certain way as far as like, traditional conservative type
Yes.
of way of having
Yes.
sex. I was raised in a household where I was taught sex education. So it wasn't like, Sydney, only wait till you're married, da-da-da-da. My mom was very realistic. She was like, hey, I've been your age.
Yep.
I understand how homeruns work. I actually was a sex ed teacher. So let me teach you
Yes.
about how to be safe.
That's great.
So if and when it happens, you know how to be safe.
Yes.
That was
I
good.
would rather. I appreciated that growing up because when the moment came, I knew what to do to be safe. And I know a lot of friends who did not know what to do to be safe. And I mean, even college, like someone asked me one time, like, how do I use a condom? And I'm like, so yeah, you need to. But I was
Yeah.
taught that, like, when my mom,
That was good, yeah.
she taught me everything. So I didn't get a birds and the bees type
Yeah.
of conversation. And I wasn't it was the religious aspect wasn't pushed on me of like, wait till you're married. My mom was very progressive in her approach of
Well, realistic
Yeah.
too, right?
Yes.
I mean,
And I know
Yeah.
the approach that I took was just similar, but I approached it from the religious perspective of, when you make that choice, whoever you're with, that is, you're giving them a part of yourself.
Yes.
And that's
Right.
a deeply intimate, personal thing. And you should think heavily about that decision because it's more than just the act of having sex.
Yeah.
yes.
But also being realistic about, young people.
Right.
Yeah.
I also
So.
looking back, I kind of wish I had waited a little longer before I lost it at 17. My virginity, losing it. I guess that's the term.
Well,
But there's in my life personally, there's also sexual trauma in my life. So I mean, it depends on how people look at it.
Yeah.
But when I had the choice, it was at 17. And so, yeah, I kind of wish I had waited a little longer because I think I noticed like when I was in the mind frame I was in at 17, I gave my virginity up because I was not healed through my sexual trauma.
Gotcha.
And so I made the decision of, this boy is only going to like me if I give myself up this way.
But don't you think there's a lot of girls that are like that?
Yeah.
Yes. And so instead of being like a full person and being like, oh, this is a like sexual freeing moment, I'm going to make this decision for myself. It was more so for him. Like,
If
I want
more
to like,
coerced.
yes.
Yeah. And so thank you for sharing
I was going to say thank you for being so brave.
That's a very intimate thing that I think will help other people. So thank you for sharing that. Tristan, do you have any thoughts
I
on
was
that?
just piggyback on like two things. I 100% agree with everything Sydney said. And I think especially from the idea of like, I come from a family of realists too. So like there weren't birds and the bees. It was, no, this is sex and this is how things work.
Right.
I do think it's interesting to kind of like reflect back now because we were a Christian household. It wasn't necessarily like, oh, but as a Christian, this is what you should do. Right. Even though it was things that was like actively talked about in the church that we were attending. So it's like we knew what the right thing was because we were growing up in a church where it was taught.
Yes.
But in the house, it was very much so, this is what this is. And also I'm the youngest of four. So I was the last one to have that conversation or, the friend to have that conversation with. So I'm sure that conversation changed over the course of those years. But like you said, it was very much so this is what this is with the understanding or kind of like the background of we're Christians and this is just how we should do things. But it wasn't necessarily enforced to say, oh, you have to do this way.
And it's interesting. I was going to say you guys both shared that because like imagine our parents are more like maybe grandparents, right? For your age or whatever. My mother, and it was like, there's a book on the coffee table, his talk and her talk. Like, for real. Like, it was like, almost like, to me, having sex, the worst thing that could happen is you're going to get pregnant. Like, that, so then you become this fear. I'm going to get pregnant. I mean, like, and I took a different approach with my son, probably more like your family, all of you, where he asked me, Mom, is it a bad thing? I'm like, I could screw my kid up right now. And I told him, no, it's a beautiful thing. Some people make it a game. And, and just hurt people, essentially. You have to wait till you're married. Well, that's what God would want you to do. But I realistically believe that I feel like it should be with someone you love. But I try to approach it probably the same way your parents did too, because I know the reality is, right? And I know getting a book, his talk,
doesn't really prepare you.
I mean, no offense, Mom, but it was, I remember the book. It was like these little cartoon characters. And, and I know she said that we tried to talk to you and you guys just laughed at us. But I think relationships were just different with your parents back then. It was just because of the way they were raised, right? And maybe our generation, your parents, were just a little bit more forthcoming. And we're like, look, we're not going to pretend it's not a real thing. It's real. They're going to do it.
Yes. Yeah. And I think also like the type of field my mom worked in with child advocacy and things like that. Like even growing up, when she would teach us body parts, we didn't use nicknames. Like, this is my vagina. And like, she tells a funny story of like my grandma. We were going swimming and I was like, oh, Grandma, my vulva hurts. And she was like, okay, like, let's put on your clothes. And my grandma's like, you need to talk to someone's touching Sydney. Like, someone's touching her. She's like calling things this. And she's like, well, Mom, I taught her that. She's like, well, why? Why would you teach her that? Why don't you just tell her it's a pocketbook? But yeah.
It's a pocketbook.
But my mom said, one time we were talking about the parts, and my mom said, well, it doesn't sound very nice, that name. And I said, but that's what it's called. I mean, like.
But I think and I share that story just to give a sense of like, it's okay to talk about sex. And it's okay from a Christian perspective to talk about sex so that when people do wait until they're married to have sex, that they can do it and have fun and not feel awkward.
Have guilt and
not feel guilt and shame. Because I know a lot of married people who still feel shame when they have sex and they're married.
Wow.
There are a lot of different topics we can venture off on. Deeper podcast on this. So let me go to the next subject a little bit because I have gotten into it with my children about this, about me being judgmental.
I can imagine.
However,
knowing my god sisters, I can imagine.
Modesty. So I grew up, I think, like a lot of people in my generation. You were supposed to be modest. It mattered how you kind of presented yourself out in the world. You didn't have a lot of boobs out, and you didn't have a lot of this, and you did kind of look negatively on other. I can remember like being in college, and there was someone, I don't know how to, is it whining or winding? Just dancing?
Like whining?
Whining,
The dancing.
And we're all looking at that like, oh my God. Like, oh my God. But now that would be like, who cares? And the way that people dress. And I remember having a conversation with her about Cardi B one time. And she just thought I was being so judgmental. And I was like, Sierra, I mean, I don't even think she wants that for her daughter. Mm-hmm. However, she doesn't mind putting that out there to influence you, my daughter. And I don't want that for my daughter. So she can do whatever she wants to do, but I don't want you to see her as a role model in terms of how you present yourself as a woman.
Yeah.
So that's my opinion. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I think so twofold. I believe in dressing what you are comfortable with and for your shape and size.
Okay.
And so, I feel like fashion, there's a freedom of expression with that. And I have grown up to express yourself through clothes. But my mom has also been like, hey, you probably shouldn't wear that because it doesn't look flattering on you. Or like, my mom is a bigger girl, always has been. And so she knows kind of how to dress for her size. And so that is something that she taught me too. So even when I've been more petite in nature sometimes as weight has fluctuated. But she's taught me like, hey, certain things are best for your shape. And so that's kind of how I approach like my everyday dress. There are moments where I want to be a little bit more expressive and maybe a little bit more revealing than what I have on today. But I think it's the time and the place.
Time and a place.
I would never wear that in a cathedral or to go see the Pope or at church.
Right.
Like I'm not wearing that in front of my pastor.
Right.
But if I am out with my girls, and we're going to a party, I'll probably wear something a little bit more different. I'm not wearing an undress.
Yeah.
But I think, and also too, I was not raised to kind of look at celebrities as idols or look at them to show me any sort of morality type of thing. And so I think, Cardi B in nature can be a little much. While I love Cardi, I do love Cardi, but she can be a little much overall.
She is authentically herself.
She is authentically herself. And someone views that who may be so sheltered in a way where it's like, I have this similar personality and I just want to be free and expressive. And I think there's a positive aspect of that where she just doesn't care what anyone thinks. And she is authentically herself. And I think we should. And
I love that.
We should be like that.
Yes.
But I think there are some things that I personally wouldn't do myself.
Yes.
100%.
Yes.
Yeah, I think both of y'all make really good points. The idea that you were saying, I know that Cardi B is this and she's that, but I don't want you as my daughter to take these things on. It goes back, like you said, Sydney's parents are still, or family members, whoever the person is guarding the child, it's they're the ones who should be instilling those values regardless, because you won't be able to shield her from, the pop stars and all of these other media stars who dress and do all of these things. So it's important for us on the home level and the church level, or whoever their spheres of influence are, make sure that we're putting those values in so they kind of know the difference.
Yeah.
I think the big takeaway, like you said, Sydney, is this idea of time and place, right? What I'm going to wear to a club in Raleigh, I'm not wearing downtown Rocky Mount to go and get something to eat, or what I wear on maybe a day at school, I'm not going to wear it, if we're going to a cookout or something like that. So it's I think it changes depending on the location and everything. But also that, like you said, people have kind of the rights to wear whatever they're wearing. I think it's a fine line, a very fine line. When we start talking about religion and dress code or religion and modesty, I think it's a fine line. And the fine line I'm talking about is just when we talk about, what it might cause someone else to do. Because I ride that line a little bit now, where it's it's your convictions aren't my responsibility. So it's I'm not in charge of if
control yourself.
Yeah. If you see a thigh and you're oh my God, I'm going to lose my mind. That has nothing to do with me. If I'm wearing shorts, that's your conviction.
Yes.
But then also, am I going to dress in a way that is like you said, I think the best way you said it was like flattering to myself. That's not like super revealing, but also appropriate for the time and place. I think there are a lot of nuances that go into it.
Yeah.
But most importantly, is like, no, it happens at the home, but then also if the place I'm going matches my attire, then it's like, it just has to be fine. And there's nothing that we can like, say that say, this is wrong.
Right. And also, I don't put everything on social media. So like the moments where I am a little more expressive and my style is different depending on the setting, 9 times out of 10, I'm not putting that on social media.
Right.
If I am, it's in my close friends.
It's on Snap. Where it disappears really
That's
quick.
funny. When I went to the Renaissance tour and like everybody's there with their sheer shirts and sequins and barely any clothes at all. And it's like, I took pictures, but I was like, I'm not putting this on social media. I was like, because one, every person I know connected to my church will have a fit because they're like, Tristan,
Not
what
me.
are you doing? No,
I'd be like, yeah, Tristan. You gotta work it.
because some people wouldn't understand that nuance of like time and place.
Do you think
and
it's
also,
because they're like older,
I
maybe
think,
mostly?
Yeah,
or?
I think a lot of it deals with their own like values, their own upbringing, and like, people have to dress one way versus like doing things. And I don't think the idea that Sydney talked about, like context, doesn't apply to them. It's just, oh no, like you should dress this way, and that should just be the standard across all things, not depending on where you are.
And also, I think there's a nuance to me and Tristan because we both hold leadership roles in our church. So like it's even a little bit more like,
what are your roles?
Have them after this podcast. You'll still have them.
What are the roles that what are the roles that you guys hold?
so I lead our civic engagement ministry,
Okay.
and then I'm also an altar counselor, which
Okay.
basically means when someone walks down the aisle and wants to be saved, I kind of counsel them through that process.
Oh, nice.
Tristan works with the youth, and so both of those roles, you're like, well, Sydney, you're an altar counselor. You have someone's salvation on the line at stake, you know, and you're working with youth. They're impressionable kids.
Right.
You know, there are judgments that are often made, and Tristan, I don't know if you feel this way, but I have often felt like there's never any time for me to just be Sydney. Like I have to constantly think about
how this might impact someone else.
right. Like before we started this, I was talking about my dress.
Yeah.
Part of that was because I'm an altar counselor. Okay, is someone going to is a man gonna, even though I don't counsel, they don't allow us to counsel opposite sexes or whatever.
Right.
So is a man going to see me standing up waiting for a woman to walk down the aisle? Is he gonna walk in hopes that when we're all in the same room together counseling people, he has a chance to approach me? Like I had that going into it.
Wow. Okay.
Because again, and that's why I said deconstructing religious trauma, because I think sometimes, especially being a woman in religious spaces, I think it's often beat down on us make sure you cover yourself because the pastor could be looking at your knees, or they could be looking at your cleavage. And it's this constant pressure of not causing someone else to go astray. And that's why I said we got to deconstruct that, because at the bottom of it, that's your conviction and that's your issue.
Right.
And you can't put that on me. And so if
All
I'm
the way back to Eve.
Right.
You never get away from that.
Right.
As a woman.
Right. We're never going to get away from that.
Yeah.
Thanks, Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
You should have been leading Adam, but
Right.
We were talking about
'Cause literally,
100%.
Adam is the reason why everything went astray. But that's a whole nother
Wasn't
conversation.
it a man's
Yes.
Right. He wasn't leading his home
That's right.
properly. Your wife is talking to a serpent and you're just over here,
get it together.
get it together, sir.
Focus.
But I really do not like, especially in conversations with other Christians, hearing conversations of, well, she made me approach her. She made me feel tempted. No. You have to own, that's a part of repentance. Owning your own stuff.
Yeah.
Take accountability.
Right.
If you struggle with sexual temptation so much that you see my knee and you are
Undone.
Yeah, you're not well.
you need therapy.
Yeah.
You need therapy.
Yeah.
You need spiritual counseling and you need mental health counseling.
And Sydney, I think it's interesting because those conversations play into other realms of life too. So I'm an administrator at a school, and one of the things that we did this school year, me and my principal, was we revised our dress code policy. So we're both new at the school, but one of the things we wanted to do was make sure that it didn't target oh, just the way that ladies dress. So it wouldn't just say, oh, girls, you can't do this, girls, you can't do that. So what we ended up doing because of things like that and because of our own traumas around dress code was, using some more universal language and instead listing certain items out and saying, students can't wear this, X, Y, and Z. But it's like not to say, oh, ladies don't do this, oh, guys don't do this. Because I see in the same way that you're saying, like, ladies are often, or women are often attacked in the church for being the people who make people stumble or be tempted. It's the same way. It's like men have those opportunities to do the same thing.
Yes.
They just aren't caught, or they aren't, well, no, I'm going to say that. They aren't caught. Or they're just kind of like swept under the rug because it's like, oh, a woman's like temptation is more.
Our fault.
So it's often like you have to also hold the men accountable in that too. It's like, if I'm going to tell a woman, don't wear this because we're at church, or don't wear this again, or do this differently. That's something I have to make sure that we're holding the men accountable, because in the same way that a man might come back in the altar counseling thing to say la 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 la, or to try to get with you, a woman might do the exact same thing for a man if she finds him handsome or attractive. So making sure that and I think that's the push that we do or the charge that we have as leaders in the church too, right? Is to push that boundary a little bit more and say, like, this is what this looks like, or this is how this is equitable for everybody at the church. And to piggyback off something you said, I think I am a little bit more progressive than conservative in a lot of ways.
Did you discover that today?
Talking those things out, it's like, maybe I am just a little bit more progressive than
Welcome to the progressive side.
But don't you think, and I think we're kind of getting close to time here, but I like how you said progressive, because it's like, it's great that the church can be conservative, but you need to be real too, right? Like, I love how you talked about how your mom was just real, like straight up. She was protecting you better than like, here's a book, right? I mean, I'm not, my poor mom, I love you if you're watching.
It's okay, Mom.
But again, it was just, I think, that's great that you had that experience. But I think maybe being a little more progressive as young leaders might be a good thing, because you're not pretending that this stuff isn't happening. And I think maybe in the past that was pretended, we're not going to look at that. Let's just look this way, ignore that it's happening. But then you've got pregnancies and you've got all this other stuff amongst young people,
and it keeps
because nobody wants to talk about
wanting
it.
To join the church,
right?
So
we say we should come as we are.
We should come as we are, and we are. We could talk. I got so many more points on this card. But we'll have you come back, because we didn't.
We would love to have you guys come back.
I really wanted to talk about church hurt. I really wanted to talk about some other things that have come up even as we've talked today. So I think it'd be great for y'all to come back.
Yes,
absolutely. And we pick this up in a part 2.
Yes.
Is there anything you want to leave with that you wanted to make sure you shared today? We want to make sure you have that opportunity.
And I will say, I think, and it kind of piggybacks on your point, that's the biggest issue with the church sometimes, is that their unwillingness to be progressive is going to be the thing that like eventually leads to the downfall of the church, right? We have to make sure that the church constantly adapts to society, because the members that were there in 1867 aren't the same members who are here in 2025. And then in 2050, it's going to be a completely different set. And if society and our norms and values continue to change, it's like the church has a job, yes, to hold those Christian values there, but alongside that, adapting from a societal stance to make sure we're still meeting the needs of the people. Because if the people's needs aren't being met, then that kind of defeats the purpose of us being here.
I love that.
Right, I love that. What a great way to close it out.
Yeah, I would just say, because you started the conversation with us being millennials, and I think there's always like this big topic in church of like, how do we reach the millennial generation? Well, the millennial generation ranges from like 40 to 29. So like, we're adults. You got Gen Z and you got Gen Alpha. So like, there's 2 generations that are coming up right now that you have to, like, the millennials that have left, that are leaving the church or have left the church, pray that they come back, but like, that should not be your main focus, because you have you have 2 generations after that are coming up, and the only way those 3 generations stay in the church, remain active, is if the church starts having those realistic conversations and not ignoring reality.
Love it.
I love that. Is a perfect way to end. Beautiful.
That's a great way to end.
Y'all are great guests.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you.
Yeah, I really appreciate it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Thank you
that's
for having
awesome. Well,
us.
we appreciate y'all being here, and we look forward to seeing you next time on the Pink Dress Effect.